What would be a win for the president, and how high would you rate his chances of getting such a win?
Good morning, Guy. What this trip to me is about realpolitik and about engagement. And if what we see coming out of this meeting between the president and the regent, Mohammed bin Salman, is a closer alliance on Middle East security, where the United States and Saudi are going to be jointly pushing, that's a plus. If they work jointly with Israel, that's still a bigger plus. And judging by the president's itinerary, that's more than likely what's going to happen.
So Terry, just to jump in here, what you're saying is that this trip is not about oil.
Oh, I'm saying this is very much not about oil. For a couple of reasons. One is, of course, OPEC makes the decisions on pumping overall. OPEC has already, at the Saudis' behest, increased pumping slightly, something that was seen as both kind of a welcome mat for Biden and a pushback at the Russians a bit. So the benefit on oil that the United States and the president gets out of this has already happened. In terms of political consequences here immediately, the president takes a double hit. He takes a human rights hit from his progressives, and at the same time, for kind of middle America, middle class, takes a hit on oil prices, because the line will be, well, Biden went cap in hand to the Saudis and came up with nothing, which, as I say, isn't strictly really true, but that's actually what will come away from it. But this is much more about Middle Eastern security and trying to shore things up in advance of a possible new Iran deal, pushing back at Russia's pretensions to a sphere of influence in the region, dealing with the Chinese economic interests, and again, trying to forge common cause with Israel here.
And so, Terry, if President Biden is going to take a hit from the human rights side, if he's going to take a hit on this not being necessarily about lowering prices at the pump, what would a win look like for this administration in the court of U.S. public opinion?
That will be very difficult to come up with in the court of U.S. public opinion, Katie. I think that's an excellent point. But the Middle Eastern security needs here, and the need for the United States to work in concert with people and countries throughout the Middle East, not just one or another or anything else, are really outweighing the need to get something dramatic done on oil, which, as I say, isn't really possible anyway, and clearly outweighs the concerns of part of his party, who would prefer that he prioritize nothing but human rights issues here.
And so, Terry, a lot of focus has been paid to the Saudi Arabia leg of this trip, but Biden also set to travel to Israel. How does that fit into the broader picture of what the administration is trying to accomplish here?
Well, what they're really trying to do is forge an all Middle East solution. Historically, there have been a lot of factions within what generally gets loosely called the Arab world, and a lot of tensions, of course, and sometimes more between the Arab factions and Israel. And what Biden's trying to do, frankly, is build on the progress of the past few years and come up with an all Middle Eastern solution that provides an effective counterweight to Iranian pretensions in the region as well. And whether or not the administration gets an Iranian nuclear deal done again, that's going to be a very important counter to Iran. So this is about Middle Eastern security, and then more broadly world security, and thus it's a very important meeting.
Terry, CPI, inflation data Wednesday. Before the president goes to the Middle East, do you think there's any chance he announces some sort of easing of tariffs with China?
I think that's certainly possible, but markets should not think that they're going to be large or consequential. The administration has been signaling that as much in the press for the past week or two, number one. Number two, they've been fooling around with the whole tariff issue for going on a year and a half here. So markets should not look for anything consequential, number one. Number two, even any small adjustment in tariffs doesn't have either an immediate or a real long-term impact, and it also is not going to change the difficult trajectory that United States-China relations are already on.
And Terry, let's talk about the elephant in the room, of course, Russia. What message is the administration trying to send to Russia with this trip, in addition to trying to shore up stability, as you've talked about?
Well, really two things, Katie. One is that, as I say, Russia has had pretensions for quite some time, and the Russian pretensions go back, all the way back to the kind of great game in the 19th and early 20th century, predating the Soviet Union, about a sphere of influence in the Middle East, and that's in part what the Syrian incursion is about, and the previous administration allowed that to happen, firstly. Secondly, you can tell a lot about what the administration is up to from the conversations that Secretary of State Blinken and the Chinese foreign minister had in a sidebar at the G20 foreign ministers meetings recently. And Blinken's readout of this was that the United States is really pushing hard on China to get off the so-called neutral foot on Russia and put some more pressure on Russia. I don't think China is inclined to do that, certainly whether under pressure from Secretary Blinken or not. But the administration has made it very clear that China needs to join in to kind of complete the encirclement of Russia in the court of public opinion, and push for a solution to the Ukrainian matter that is more favorable than it might be today.